All right, aloha mai kako. My name is Tato Bishan, and welcome to another edition of Around the Bowl. These are kava sessions that we have with people in our community who are inspiring us to keep on our focus and our intent of honoring natural medicinals and to be true to our roots and our culture. We're here live today. Well, it's not live technically because you're going to be seeing this after, but we're here on location at Living Vitality with Daniel, who is the owner and master brewer, I would say, of kombucha, and he has inspired us in his mission, and today we want to welcome him to share a little bit more with you. Now, staying true to the medicine of kava, it was used to help us lower our egos so that we can converse about many hard topics. And oftentimes it was used between opposing or neighboring villages so that we could come together to make progress in our everyday lives. We see Daniel as one of those neighbors, not opposing, but one of our neighbors that has the same mission, and we want to welcome him. I do want to set a disclaimer that today you're going to hear things that are candid conversations, and so we want you to know that these are both professional and personal opinions of what you'll hear today, and we encourage you all to do your own due diligence and research to find out what works best for you. With all good things, they begin with aloha. So let's welcome Daniel with a big aloha. Aloha.
Aloha.
Thank you for having us here today. This is quite fun. Usually we are at the Kava Bowl, and I have a teleprompter. I know it's a cheat, right? But it just helps me to kind of remember the points that I want to talk about. And today we're very free form. I wanted to be in your space, to feel your mana, to know your energy, and to share with other people what I feel about kombucha, but most importantly, your intent and your mission with it. So thank you. Mahalo for having us here.
Thank you so much for being here and coming here to my space and gracing us with the presence and kava. It's been an honor knowing your family, for a couple of years now, and speaking deeply with Adam and you and your family and everybody that comes to the kava bowl. It just feels like it's like you guys bring a different culture to this, to this community. Wow. And you bring like an authenticity that I really appreciate. And that's, what we try to do here at Living Vitality as well too, is keep to the true form of what we're doing, to the plants, to the culture, the bacteria, and just staying traditional, staying hands-on. So
mahalo. I wanted to ask you this for a long time, but what actually got you into kombucha, and did it start off just for personal and then expand into a business, or was it something that you knew you would pursue as a business?
Yeah, it was a passion hobby that started 11, maybe 12 years ago, 2011. I was an engineer before this in the medical industry career for a couple years, and I realized that they were just there for profit. Yes, they're helping people in some ways, but mostly they were reveling on the suffering of others. Mm. And I couldn't stick around. Like, my heart just exited, and then I quickly exited myself. But around that time is where I was introduced to kombucha through one of my coworkers, and I started brewing it for myself as a hobby. I fell in love with it. It basically transformed me. I was going through a lot of changes in my mind. I was learning about food and medicine. And kombucha was one of those things that was like a gateway to a new life.
Yes.
And one day I woke up through a series of events. I quit my job straight on. I kind of burned my bridges there so that I would make sure to never come back to that, kind of like scope, that career. And all I had was, my passion for kombucha. And I thought, why not make this a business? So it took about a year and a half to like really get it going. But that's how I evolved into kombucha.
Very nice. I want to just kind of go back to a few things that you said. Number one, you were in the medical field, right? Number two, you're an engineer. And I could see that in everything that you have here. It's very well planned and very well thought out. It's very intentional. So I could see that engineer influence in this. But on the medical end, I love what you said, that your heart exited quickly. You knew you had to go as well. Yet you're still in the medical side.
Yeah. So it transformed,
and yet you're
right?
still in the engineering side.
Yes.
And
so not all was lost.
Not all was lost. So I found it very interesting. You said you kind of burnt the bridges, right? So that you wouldn't go back. But I feel like you've come full circle, and you are on the right side of that bridge.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And it's a different bridge. It's you said, it was a gateway. And that's exactly what I feel about kombucha, because I think it's very misunderstood. And people often will say, oh, it's very vinegary. It's very vinegary. But when you look at the medicinal properties of it, and one thing in particular you said was bacteria. I think in a lot of the medical industry today, people hear the word bacteria and it's perceived as bad.
Right.
Talk to me about bacteria.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for your perspective and, putting it all together for me, because that's how life moves, right? In spirals. It's circular, but it's circular and the goal is to go up, right? And to elevate each time. So yeah, it has come full circle for me from, as an engineer, loving numbers, loving physics, loving to figure out how life works, going into the medical field, discovering the things that I don't like about it, and then going through this whole journey, coming back around, really serving people directly.
Yes.
And, in our product, in our bottles that we sell commercially, we can't say it's medicine. We can't say it treats or heals and whatnot. And to some extent, that is true. It doesn't heal, treat, or cure, but it allows your body to do so, with proper thoughts, proper consumption, and proper behaviors. So it's part of a new consciousness, I think. And
absolutely.
I've also delved myself into a lot of plant medicine, medicinal plants, medicinal herbs. Took herbalism classes. I'm very close knit with the herbalist community here in Orlando and abroad. And all those things kind of are coming together now over the last year, where I can put more intention and more functionality into the kombucha. So we're taking it to the next level, and we're in the process of really revamping and changing Living Vitality for that focus. So I'm really happy about that. And we're in the same realm. We're in the same consciousness, because you know so much about plants. You're so in tune with the plants and the energies behind it. And that's what we believe as well too, is that everything, there's an energy behind it, and we have to be very careful about what we consume.
Absolutely, and the amount that we consume. One thing I know for myself is looking at plants as medicine, going back to that thought. And I've been in plant medicine ever since I could remember. My father raised us in natural remedies and herbs and what have you, and just in our whole genetic makeup is a huge respect for Mother Earth and for the plants and plant medicines. And even being away from the island, you're able to recognize that of the local areas. And I think for me, having Living Vitality locally brewed is so important, because it honors this space. It honors Florida, it honors Central Florida, it honors Orlando, coming from a cultural society where we honor each place.
Yes.
And honor, where we stand and where the plants come from. It touches us back to home, I feel. And that's why I felt such good synergy when we first met you. And actually, so about maybe 10 years ago, I think it was 2012, I saw someone take a tour of your facility, and because I like kombucha, and I was like, what is this? I was looking up on YouTube some different things, and that's when I was like, well, we've got to go there. So I was really grateful that we were finally able to connect. But when we connected, I knew it was much more than just a brewery, and that there was mana behind it. There was that energy behind it, and that makes all the difference. Just like when we mix ava, you reconnect. When your hands are in that water, you are connecting to your ancestors. You're connecting to Mother Earth. And I think that's really important because synergistically, that's a part of my life that I didn't realize I was missing until I came new into this. And when I say I came new into this, meaning the consumption of kava and the preparation of kava. Now, I've served kava. I grew up with it in ceremony. I grew up with it socially, but I was not consuming kava because twofold. Number one, I snuck as a little kid and I got the bottom grit of the bowl. And so it was not desirable for myself. Number two, just a lot of the religious influence growing up in a very Western religion mindset, which told us that anything that alters consciousness was bad. And so it was not necessarily my belief, but it was my respect for my elders who did believe that also kept me kind of torn. So it actually was my husband who really took to this because of my auntie who taught him and took the time to not only just teach him about kava, but about the culture behind it. So anyhow, looking at this in the medicinal perspective, when I finally made that connection, I understood. I understood at that point that this was a whole different meaning than just seeing my uncles having a good time and seeing it done in ceremony. I began to understand it. It was almost like ancestral knowledge came to me in not only consumption, but more importantly in the preparation and the honoring of it. And so I hold it with a different respect now. And I see that you do that with your kombucha. One thing that you mentioned that I love is that you are really being intentional and you're focusing those in different directions and using your knowledge of herbs to really bring it to a different level. Like we were talking about that spiral, and that spiral goes up, right? And so can we talk about that for a second?
Sure.
Okay. Actually, may I have my kombucha over there, please, Adam? All right, so what I have in my hand is Energia. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yes. So, first of all, the name Energia it means the same thing in 3 different languages, probably more languages. Energia, energy. And the reason I picked that name, which came about through conversations with my family, said, hey, there's something specific about you that you're trilingual, tricultural citizen of the world. So that's what I kind of aim for in my next phases of the flavors that we're introducing. So this one is based on our popular gingerberry. So it's got the ginger and the blueberry in it, and we added some other high energy and also nootropic ingredients in order to make it more focused for energy and focus, including yerba mate, which is a very popular Ilex family plant for very, very high energy, high caffeine, but not like coffee. So it doesn't hit like some of the stress hormones. It's more of a body balanced, caffeinated feeling. Bacopa, which is really, really good for the brain. Schisandra berry for energy, and a few other ingredients. So that was our intention behind it, is to, make it something that people can drink to be really focused. Here in this society, we're always on the go. Truly, America runs on coffee. Yes. But why not in something that can also bring balance to your stomach, from your gut to your brain? Yes. Which is the probiotic and the antioxidant aspects of kombucha. So
and that's a whole another rabbit hole there, just talking about gut to brain health, because we as Polynesians believe that life begins in the navel. right? That umbilical cord to your mother is your life source. And that's why the placenta has such great value to us as Polynesians. It's because it's what feeds us, right? But also when we talk about gut intuition, and when we talk about, I just had, that gut feeling, I could feel it in my bowels. And even if you want to look in terms of biblical, they talk about the importance of that. Okay, we're going to hold off. Sorry, we're going to hold off in just 1 second. But we believe that in order to have clear paths of thinking, you also have to have a clear gut.
Oh yeah,
I think so. So I mean, it's a journey for me too. So don't look at me and say you don't look healthy. But I intend and I practice many things to get me to that point, and it does make a difference. So when I first came to the brewery and he was telling me about Energia, I thought, oh, I'm going to be cautious because energy drinks just don't resonate well with me. But it's also because it's the type of energy drinks. The chemical energy drinks have an adverse effect on me. My head gets dizzy, it's a charge and it's a rush. But when I first drank this, and it's about, how many ounces would you think that is?
The full cup is 12 ounces.
12 ounces, and this is probably maybe
6 to 8.
6 to 8 ounces. 6 to 8 ounces, and I instantly felt charged. And like he was saying, it was a total a body balance. It wasn't in my head, because a lot of energy drinks just rush in my head, or I feel it and I get jitters and I get really nervous. But with this, I just felt instantly like there was a halo around every part of me, and it was an even energy. So I had a trip out of town and I had to drive 2.5 hours. So I was like, well, I'm going to take some Energia with me. And then I came back and I was like, wow, that was amazing. Like I have been going nonstop and I thought I was going to be tired, but I just sailed right through. And it was cognitive, right? Because sometimes when you come down off that energy, like other energy drinks,
there's a crash.
Yes, it's a crash. And I've done that before. We've done that before and had to totally pull over and sleep at a rest stop because I'm not going to say the name of the drink, but yeah, he had several and it was just total crash. So I appreciated it, and I really felt the intent of every herb that he put into it. Being familiar with herbs is one thing, but having your body familiar with herbs is a total different experience. So then I came back and I texted him and I was like, hey, this is great stuff. Are you going to make something to, for focus? Because I really need that. And then he's like, it's all in there. And he's like, were you focused? And I had to think for a second. I was like, back up, ADHD girl. Yes, you were very focused. So I was able to plan a lot while I was driving. So it's wonderful stuff here. And before we get on to our kava, I'm just going to take a sip of this because I need this energy.
If I could say something about it, hopefully you can hear. But when she told me about it, I tried it. Number one, it tastes wonderful. It's amazing. And I instantly felt it. And it wasn't like how you said, it wasn't this type of energy drink that gives you the jitters and the shakes and it, because I'm sensitive to that stuff too. But we brew botanical teas, tea at the lounge, and that I'm gonna be very careful saying this because I know there's some diehard kratom fans out there, but I drink it, I use it medicinally, but after a while you stop getting the feeling that you got in the beginning. And I remember drinking this, and I don't want to say it's euphoric or anything, but I remember saying to myself, I'm getting that energy that I felt when I first started drinking kratom, but it felt more positive. It was a more positive feeling, and I haven't felt like that in a while. That was just off of one, little bit of that glass, and I didn't crash or anything like that.
That's beautiful to hear.
Yeah, yes. And again, I know there's some diehard kratom fans,
including yourself.
I am too. I use it, but the feeling that I got from it, I said, "Wow, this is And I know that a lot of people who drink kratom, they'll know what I'm talking about. In the beginning, you know, it's like, wow, this really is great, and it still is. But you don't get, after you drink it so much, you kind of don't ever return back to that beginning stage of it. At least from my experience, that where you get that energy or that euphoric feeling. And I almost felt, maybe it was just the energy that was behind it, the mana that was behind the drink. I almost felt a little bit of euphoria from it, and I was amazed.
I think consciousness for me is euphoria. To be able to think consciously without aid of chemical or aid of sugar, because there are natural herbs that can induce those things, but consciousness for me was euphoria. To be able to be functional, to be conscious, and to be aware and to be present is euphoria for myself.
Yeah.
And when I look at this particular drink, I see that it can help a lot of people, and it really is a good directive for focus. And so, just like anything else, right? Anything that's out of balance or overconsumption of anything, sure, there's repercussions to it. And we see a lot of people who come in and their main thing may be tea. But I do see that when it's overused, there's oftentimes adverse effects in that, and it changes their energy and their spirit too. It's I mean, nothing against those who consume alcohol or anything else like that, but anything in overconsumption, it really does change you physically as well as emotionally. And I think this is a very conscious drink and a very cognitive drink where you can consume it, feel the benefits from it, and still be very much aware.
Yeah.
You know, and I resonate well with it because I feel it also is a good match for kava, because kava is that same way. You know, it helps to bring down our ego. It helps to put things into perspective, and you can converse over things. And that's the way I felt about Energia, because if I have even just Sprite, even just a couple sips of Sprite, I'm bouncing all over the place. You know, because I don't do well with sugar and
the caffeine that they put in there.
Caffeine, I just don't. I'm not a coffee drinker because my mana, my energy is already high. And so when I tip that scale, it becomes off balance for me. So it's a good balance. So, well, today we're going to be enjoying some
kava from Solomon Islands.
Kava from the Solomon Islands. And today Adam is mixing this, so we are going to be feeling this hardcore. And of course we didn't shut off our phones. Of course we didn't. Just shout out to Zion Cruz. She is out there traveling, and that's why I did not shut off my phone. She is traveling to Peru first, I believe. No, Panama. She'll be in Panama first, and then she's going to Chile. And she's going to be playing for a huge festival out there representing the Hawaiians. So shout out to Zion. Eo Kanakas, all of our Hawaiian people out there, you're in Chile. And also shout out to our Rapa Nui brothers and sisters. Hopefully some of you are out there and see her and open those doors and those connections.
So it was a last minute thing?
It was a last minute thing. It's pretty exciting. And so she called us and she's like, I can't be there. So we were scrambling to get things together for the podcast, because she handles that. Yes, she's our go-to girl. And it's good to see her.
How to massage the kava as well.
Yes.
Yeah, I love
and it's good to see her out there living her passions too. And that's, I think, really what drew me to kombucha was a drink of passion that I saw that you really put into it. And what did you say? You refer to it as a passion hobby, right?
Thank you.
It's a passion hobby.
Yeah, passion hobby. Of course, you know, there's so much to be said about what we just talked about.
Yes.
So much to be said about, you know, my philosophy and how we're in agreement with everything. But yeah, with everything, you know, in this country, we try to turn it into commercial, and, you know, there's a whole balance between keeping it, you know, like making money, but also keeping true to the vision.
Yes.
Right. So that's a constant practice. It's a constant practice. And I'm into astrology as well too. My astrology is Libra. I'm all about balance, keeping balance. So in everything I do, with like the amount of herbs I use, the amount of consumption that I take, how much time I spend in here versus nature, how much time I spend in this state versus out of state. I try to keep as much balance as possible for what works for me. And, with drinks, with kava and all that, to me, it's all about balance.
Yeah. And also with our relationships and the people that we encounter, because there's an exchange of energy there too. So you have to balance that magnetic field as well, I think. So, and I'll drink to that, Manuya.
Manuya.
Whew. That is strong.
Lovely.
Whew. All right. I'll probably have to have kalma after this. So I think this is a really perfect segue into kalma. Let's talk about kalma. What does that word mean?
Calma. Again, another trilingual word. Calm, calma in Spanish, and calma in Portuguese. It's our adaptogenic stress relief blend. Okay, so we put some strong adaptogens in it. And adaptogens, let me explain what that is. It allows the body the capability to deal with stress. It doesn't, reduce stress. It increases your ability to deal with stress. So everybody's got a different size bucket of how much they can deal with stress. It just makes it bigger, makes you able to handle what comes to you better. So the primary flavor of kalma is jasmine and holy basil, also known as tulsi. That's a strong adaptogen. It's also anti-fungal, antibacterial, and antiviral. And we have ashwagandha, we have some ginseng, we have chamomile, and some other ingredients in there to kind of promote this balance, this very calming effect. And I had kind of a stressful holiday time with family and friends and a lot of transitions in life. So that was my inspiration. It's like, I want to make something that is going to make me feel good and others as well too. So came up with that, after doing some research. All the plants I'm very familiar with, but there's so many options. Like, how do you choose? How do you choose? And for me, I'm more of an intuitive person. Like, if it feels good in my gut, I do it. I go for it. If it brings me joy, I go for it. So as I was going down the list, narrowing it down, what ingredients to use, I came up with about seven or eight ingredients to add to kalma. Primarily the flavor profile of jasmine and basil works really well with it, because the flower essence really is very high vibrational, but as well as calming. So
I love that. And so I started off with Energia, and I said I want to start off with the energy one first. And then I wanted to let that resonate. And then I said, then I want to try kalma, because I want to bring myself down back to an even point. And so it did. It worked. And it brought me down really nice, right to a balance. And I thought, I have to get down with this. This is what I need. But I love how you said that it's an adaptogen. When you think about adaptogens, and you were saying it's not going to take away your stress or but it's going to basically help you adapt.
Yeah.
Right. So when you said that, I thought of the word adapt. If it's new to you and it's foreign, think of adaptogen. It helps your body to adapt and to utilize these herbs in that way. But I want to know, were you into herbs before you began this kombucha journey, or is it something that you furthered your knowledge in as you went along?
Further my knowledge. Yeah.
I love that.
I want to say kombucha was definitely a gateway to a new life, a new consciousness. But just before that, I was living in Massachusetts, and that's where I really fell in love with nature, the mountains, the rivers, the changes of season. I had a really great group of friends that took me. I didn't have a father that showed me or anything like that. I didn't grow up with a father that was present. So I found that in a lot of other male figures, and they were able to take me into nature, teach me everything. The first times I went was so rough, but I can pinpoint that was my first time that I fell in love with nature after college. And then as I came here, the first place that I went to, as soon as I landed in Orlando, is I looked up drum circles.
Mm.
My mom got me into drum circles up in Massachusetts because she said, look for a drum circle. I went to one. It was like in the basement of a church. It was great. So I looked over here and I realized there was a huge community for drum circles. And the first one I went to was a Dandelion run by the Florida School of Holistic Living. And they offer classes, and they're still around. They offer roots of herbalism and community classes and all the stuff that, eventually I took, and I fell in love with the ability for plants to bring so much energy to you, every type of energy. Yeah.
I love that. And I want to encourage anyone, if you find something that's interesting to you and you begin this path of, let's say you drink kava often or what have you, I want to encourage you to continue to pursue knowledge. Knowledge is something that doesn't have a cap on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's continual, and it's always out there, always present, and there's always room to grow in this space of learning about your passions. I think it's important because you have to understand what you're getting into. But not only that, if you're looking at a business perspective, you have to understand what you're serving people.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that I appreciate about anyone who puts that much intent into their products, because you want to make sure at the end of the day, the people who are consuming your product, your beverages, are going to be okay.
Yeah.
And not only that they're educated onto what they're consuming. They need to know why do I feel this way? And hopefully it's a gateway for them as well.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and in our choices, we try to pick plants that are not counterindicative with other, like antidepressants, for example. There's like a lot of plants that you could use for mood enhancement, but Manuya.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're taking pharmaceuticals, for example, there are some plants that you need to avoid.
Right.
So we stayed away from those plants, even though they're very powerful and whatnot, just because we don't want any issues with anybody. We want this medicine to be available to everyone. Yeah.
Medicine over money.
Exactly.
I'm glad you said that, because a lot of times we've like shared what has benefited us with herbs with people, and they'll say, "Oh, my doctor gave me some medicine. Oh, I don't want to mix it because I don't know the reactions and things like that." Mm-hmm. But to know that kind of thought went into it, to where you're thinking about all the medicines, all that kind of stuff, so it doesn't react in a negative way. I mean, that's a great thing for people to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes we, like with noni, like it's such a beneficial fruit, and we know it can help people, and they get so scared of mixing things sometimes, and it's like, okay, yeah, but just to know that all that thought went into it is an amazing thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that's important to know too, because oftentimes when we're serving kava, people will mention things, and you have to keep that space, right? That's their personal space or what have you. But intuitively, I will say, you're experiencing this and that. And I said, maybe you need to pull back from this and only focus on that for right now.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of times they come back and they say, you know what, you're right.
Yeah.
And I've met several people, and not that I'm a doctor or a pharmacist, but I know the power of the plant, and I know the intention of the plant, and therefore I am aware of pharmaceuticals that it may contraindicate. And so I really wish everyone wellness upon this drink. And because of that, I will put forth that. And again, it's that mindset of medicine over money. Mm-hmm. Medicine over money. So I love that that's your focus on it. So Kama is the second one that you're introducing.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the third one.
immunity.
Immunity.
We went with more of a play on words because it's living vitality,
Mhm.
TEA. So we did immunity, TEA at the end. That is based on the spice roots, which is one of my favorites. I made it for myself as a powerful medicine for anti-inflammatory and immune booster. We took that, same ingredients, ginger, turmeric, lemon, and pepper, and we added some more ingredients to it to better enhance the circulatory system and provide immunity. So we added mullein. Mullein is a respiratory herb, which opens up, your lungs to the breath of life.
Absolutely.
We run on breath, right? So the healthier our breath in our breathing system, the healthier we are. We need that oxygen, we need that prana from the air to move forward, to have that energy to put out into the world. We also have a few other ingredients and orange peel that we added to it as well.
Yeah,
too.
that's what makes it nice and soft. It evens the palate, I think.
Yeah, it does.
Mullein has a good flavor to it.
Yeah, mullein has a great flavor.
It's in Chinese medicines, you use it a lot.
Yeah, a lot of Native Americans will use mullein too. It's a lung detoxifier. That Solomon is hitting me already. Might need some more energy after this. But yeah, it detoxifies the lungs, and it was used in many different ways. You could use it in tincture, you can use it in oil, you can use it as a tea, you can smoke it.
You can smoke it.
You can smoke it. And
it's good for your lungs.
It's good for your lungs. It's good smoke.
It's good smoke.
There's a difference. There's drinks, and then there's good drinks, and there's kava, and then there's good kava. And smoke and good smoke.
Even alcohol is medicine.
Yes.
If it's used correctly.
Yeah.
I'm a lover of tequila, and I don't abuse it. A lot of people have abused it and they hate it, but it's an upper. It's one of the few alcohol uppers, and it comes from the agave plant. And when it's done traditionally, like in a great way, with the family and the intention and everything, it's a really good medicine if taken in the right quantities. You know what I mean?
Same like tobacco.
Yeah.
Tobacco.
Our acupuncturist had vodka.
Yeah.
And he would prescribe it for certain things because it did something with the temperature in the body and
right.
stuff.
It raised your temperature.
And like you said with tobacco, like I had learned that Native Americans would steam it and breathe it in to basically clean the lungs and undo the smoking, the tar that
tobacco wrapping.
Yeah.
That's another thing too, where you steam the leaf and you wrap in tobacco.
Yeah.
And it draws out the impurities, in your body when you're sick. So a lot of great plant medicines, and it's good to see that in practice too. I think at one point, and especially in American history, if you practice this type of herbalism, you're considered a witch. So then it makes me think of all the times of the Salem witch hunts and everything else. How many herbalists died at the hands of a different thought or a different belief system?
Yeah, the persecution that happened all over the world.
Yes, it happened all over the world, and it happened, and it continues to happen in indigenous cultures. And then what happens is kind of what we were talking about, where things become commercialized, and it's taking and taking and taking and never turning and giving back. So when you consume the plant, you have to understand that the plant must also be honored and must also be given back to the earth. So when they reap, they must also sow, so that it'll be a continual circle. But that's also, like for me, energetically too, that's how we have to be in protecting our mana, our energy, is that, when we take, we also have to give back, so that we stay in that frame of balance.
And knowing how much to take and where from, like for example, the mullein plant, it's so beautiful. It doesn't grow too much here in Florida, but South Carolina, North Carolina, and out west, it grows great. You can see the whole family of plants. There's the mother, and then there's the children. They say take a little bit from here and there, and try to leave the mother alone, and don't over harvest.
Yes.
And that's how you treat, there's a different relationship with every plant. It's really beautiful. And I learned that through the community here, to respect and honor the plants and how much to use and when to use it. Yeah. It's really beautiful.
Most definitely. And I know that we are a different type of lounge. Sometimes people say, well, it seems like you are strict or you have all these rules. And truthfully, it's not. It's respect.
Yeah.
And just bringing that new mindset into the Kava community, which I still have to get used to hearing that word, Kava community, because I think of my aunties, my uncles, and everyone who came before as the Kava community, which Kava was here in the 50s, earliest to my knowledge, here in Florida in the 50s, and actually served here in the 50s, long before this modern community existed. But it's a different mindset. And that was part of Adam's original intent, is because he experienced it, and he's Puerto Rican. So he came into our culture, and he respected the elders that taught him about this. And because of that, he wanted to bring a different light to it and to honor not only those that taught him, but also our daughters, to give them back part of their culture, their roots, so to speak. And that's why we say roots and culture. So yes, it is a different place. It's a place that we say is a place of healing, and that's whatever that is for you. And it's not that we're healers healing other people. It's we come together as a community and we heal, whether it's socially or, mentally, emotionally, physically. I feel the difference in the place. And again, not taking away from anybody else in their mission, but looking at it as medicine and honoring it as medicine, and a fun place to be, I think is healing. And that's, like you were saying, staying true to the mission, and that's what I love. When I look at everything around here, I see that there's so much intent, and there's a definite mission through here. And just the way that you conduct your business, you conduct yourself, you see that come through in the flavors that you produce, And one thing I want to talk about that really quick. When we're talking about the flavor palettes, it's interesting because I could start to break down the different tastes of the herbs, and I'm like, oh, I could taste that. I could feel that. Oh, that's bright, and it's developed part of my mind, that was dormant in terms of consuming a beverage, because I haven't been exposed to that here. So it's funny what it awakens in beveraging, just like when you eat certain foods and you can taste the herbs and you can pick it apart. I almost think it's a different segment of our brain that awakens and recognizes these plant medicines. And for some reason, it's like the knowledge comes to you. You're like, I could feel that. I could taste that. So, but I wanted to also touch on something we're doing, and it's on February 25th. That's next Saturday, so a week from today, and we'll put out some posts and information on it. But we are doing a kombucha tasting, and it came to me that we need to share this. We need to share this drink. We need to share the intention behind it. We need to share Daniel's mission and share his culture. I think that's important for people to understand, is that we're not only about our culture. We're about honoring all the cultures of that are here in Central Florida, and with the people that we meet. It's important for us to look at each other and see each other and recognize our roots. Everyone has roots. We are particularly strong in our roots because that's how I was raised, but everyone belongs. Everyone came from someplace important. And when we see through the eyes of cultural understanding, we really begin to see into the soul of those people. So I wanted to bring his culture in and talk about kombucha, but also because I love when people come through the door and they say, this place is beautiful. I feel something different. And I want them to feel the importance of kombucha. And I want them to walk away and say, you know what? I tried it. I tried it. And whether they stick with it or not, at least they're opening their mind in one fashion or another into a different culture, a different light, a different way of thinking. And maybe it's a connective or a bridge for them to open up and learn others. So let's drink to that. Manuia.
Manuia. I love that different parts of the plant have different energies associated with it. And the kava, being that it's a root, you know, and it just keeps the culture so grounded and also in touch with your foundations, your ancestors, you know, and that to me is like speaks highly, and also the knowledge and the wisdom that is handed through this plant, through the connection with your ancestors is a really beautiful thing. And I know so many other cultures have their root medicines. You know, some are, you know, very psychedelic. Other ones are, you know, nutritive. And this one is like opening, it's grounding, it's, you know, ego busting in a way, but in a gentle way.
Yes.
It's really beautiful. Can you talk a little bit about kava?
Yeah, let's talk about kava. So kava, the whole plant is medicinal, from leaves to flowers to the stem or the whole tree down into the roots. And it can be used topically depending on how it's prepared. They may use it in an oil form, and it's mixed with another carrier oil such as kukui. Kukui is what is the English? Candle nut oil, and you'll see it used in a lot of skincare. But it's antimicrobial, antifungal, it's antiparasitic. It has numbing properties that help you with pain, and it's antidepressive. But they use the carrier oil to take it to the second epidermis, so it gets in a little bit different, and so it helps with a lot of skin ailments, pain ailments. So that's on the leaf end, and the oil end. You can actually heat the leaf and put it onto your skin and use it almost like a pain patch as well.
Nice.
So there's different functions for different parts of the plants, and I'll let Adam kind of talk about down in the roots of things.
So it also, kava also like cleans the urinary tract. So it cleans your system. And for those who drink kava a lot, you'll notice you're running to the restroom a lot because it's cleaning you out. So yeah, there's many benefits in that sense as well. Kava, the way we prepare it, you know, with the dry root. In many of the cultures in the South Pacific, they'll do it with the fresh root as well, and it's actually more potent that way. When it's fresh from the ground, they make a pulp out of it, and they strain it, and they do it that way. So throughout the South Pacific, they have this plant. It's called, you know, it has different names depending on where it's from. But one of the great things about it on a spiritual level, for example, and I can't say this for all the cultures in the South Pacific, because we have to keep in mind that you have Micronesia, Polynesia, Melanesia, and within those island groups, you have so many different islands within those groups, and each one of those islands have different villages, and they all have different preparation and cultural practices surrounding kava. But one of the things that, at least on two of the islands that I know of, is that it was given as a gift to ease sorrow, actually. And just kind of in a nutshell, just making it real short. On one island, it was the loss of a daughter. And the other island, it was the loss of a lover. And it actually was believed that it grew from the grave. And it just, and you can feel it when you drink kava. You can feel that when you're stressed or when you're dealing with depression or anxiety, it just slowly melts away. And it's very subtle. It's not something that just hits you real hard. It's just, it allows your body and your mind to just calm itself. And one of the things that when you're going through sorrow, when you're going through these type of things, is that sometimes you kind of close up.
Yep.
Right?
Your body manifests.
And kava opens you up and allows you to connect. That's why it was so beneficial for people to sit like this and talk about heavy subjects that usually you wouldn't talk about. Also, it on kind of a political level too. It's also when the colonizers went to the South Pacific, they tried to ban it. They tried to take it away because one of the things that people do when they try to conquer is they separate. And this brought people together.
Yeah.
Not only that, it allowed them to speak and resolve issues. And for anybody that's trying to conquer a people, that's a no-no. You don't want that. And also it's connected to their religious beliefs as well. So you'll find that the culture in the South Pacific and their belief in God is intertwined. And this is also a drink that helped to connect a lot of that. So without going too deep into that, that's why we respect it so much. That's why when we drink kava, and I know it's different for a lot of people that visit our lounge, technically we're supposed to conduct ourselves a certain way around it out of respect for it. And the fact that it was given as a gift to ease sorrow. That's why, like, for us, you never hear us really cursing around it, or you hear us like talk negative. At least we try not to sometimes,
We're human.
Yeah, we're human, but we catch ourselves, and we try not to bring that around kava. And I think it's, for the most part, for us, it also has benefited us on a business point of view, because you get in this kava community, you'll find people that come in that are very spiritual. And when they drink our kava, they always tell me, like, I can feel the intent that you put into it. I can really feel that. And kind of taking it back to kombucha, I feel that when I drink your kombucha. I started getting into kombucha not too around the same time that I met you, actually, because I didn't know much about it. And there's some that I like and some that it was like, it wasn't that good. And when I thought about...
In your opinion.
Yeah, in my opinion. I'm sorry. In my opinion. Flavor-wise.
Yes,
I mean, kombucha is amazing, but flavor-wise. But when I thought about serving it at our lounge, after I had met you, and there was a mana that I felt that came from you.
It's beautiful to hear.
And it was such a positivity that, like, I've told you that before. Like, I feel positive when I'm around you, and I try not to think. You have the stresses of life and everything. Try not to think negatively when I'm around you. And I know that when I drink that, I can feel that through the drink. And kind of on a funny note, sometimes at the lounge, I offer it to people, and they say, I make it at home. And I give them a sample. Just try this. And they're like, okay. They drink it, and there's always that pause after they drink it. And you could see the wheels turning in their head, and they go, this is really good. So I'm like, you haven't had this one before. But it's always like, everybody that has tasted your kombucha, there's something powerful about it, and that they really enjoy, even when they make it at home.
Wow, thank you.
So, I mean, I just, that's why I always feel like if I can share it with somebody, I always try to say, hey, try this out. Like, we visited some friends down in Dunedin, and we packed up a bunch for them to try, because there's something different about it. And I feel it's your mana coming through it.
And if I may, when you were talking about speaking good words around the bowl, because we're speaking these intentions into this drink, and then we're serving it to other people, we're consuming it ourselves. So if we speak bad, we're also reconsuming that bad, that negative energy. And that's one thing that I loved when I came here, was I looked around and there was positive affirmations in what he's doing. And there are literal words of joy and bliss and these things that are spoken into
into the water.
Into the water.
Yeah.
And I think that's important.
That's what we have in common here.
Right.
The kava and the kombucha is the water.
Is the water.
And water has been proven retains memory.
It does.
And it retains the energy that you put into it, you know, whether you're cussing at it or speaking love into it.
Absolutely.
There's only two energies, love or fear.
Right.
Love or the lack of. And when you're putting in that positive energy, it retains, you know, it's been proven scientifically. It's wonderful that kava, the only carrier you need is water.
Right.
It's just water and the root, you know. And kombucha is, you know, 99% water as well too. So it's what you speak into it.
Absolutely. And then when you look at our bodies, we're mainly water. And that's something I recently came to. I was down south with some family, and we were on the beach, and I looked around and there was all these older people, and they were just as happy as can be. They've come to Florida to retire. They're enjoying the weather. They're out there and over tanning. But I had to really look at it through a different lens and say, why are they coming here? It's not just to be on the beach, but I had to understand it in the human physical sense and in the spiritual sense. And I understood at that moment, it's water. They're coming to the water for the energy. Everything needs water, and water is the biggest conducer of energy.
Yeah.
And that's why in their age, they don't understand. They're seeing beach or what have you, but I knew intently that their body was asking for that mana, that energy. Mm-hmm. And that's why they returned to the water. Manuel.
Manuel.
Ooh, I think that might be the last shell for me. I'm going to have to take more energy after this because that is super, super good. But yeah, water is life.
We're blessed here in Central Florida to have so much water around us.
Yes, we are.
And underneath of us. Yeah. And when it rains on top of us, we have so many springs, you know, where the water is constantly rejuvenated, and people have traditionally gone there for generations upon generations for healing.
Right.
And it's like this it's like a baptism.
Yeah,
you know?
I was going to say baptism.
And we're just so blessed to have it. And the waters are constantly through the underwater aquifers running underneath of us. So this is a high energy area of the country. In Central Florida, Orlando, very high energy. And it's good to tap into it, to ground yourself with it, and to be in the water, to go in the water and go into the oceans as well.
Yeah. And if you think we're just on this level of hippie, we are. Okay. We are. And you may not understand it at this point, but you will. There will be a time where you realize how important water is to you. And if you think about it, life, we begin in water.
We begin in water.
We grow in water. So that's why a lot of people are now going back to like water births and things like that, because it's a more natural form. And I see around the world how water is becoming scarce. And it is one of these things where you realize the importance of what we have. And so with that, I always encourage people, don't waste water. Mm-hmm. You know, don't waste water. Take care of water. Take care of the ocean. It feeds us. We are currently in contest of the 30-meter telescope that's going on to Mauna Kea for many reasons, culturally, religiously, because those are one and the same for us as Hawaiians, but also because that's where our main water sources, our purest forms of water comes from. It's where we believe Poliahu, the goddess of the mountain, resides, goddess of snow, and that's water. You know, so
there's a disruption happening there.
There's a disruption happening there, and so like you hear in the Dakotas, the pipeline that's going through, and just all these different places where water is being contaminated, and
what recently happened in Ohio, and what's continuing to happen East Palestine, Ohio, with the train derailment and the contamination of the main waterways. It's really sad to hear.
And in Hawaii, the military, there's just so much chemical that's impacted our lives. And it's sad to see your own people suffering as a result of that. And a lot of them don't even know that they're suffering. Like, so many of us don't know that we're actually putting our bodies through different harm by what we consume, and how we consume it. That's important too, especially when it comes to, let's just talk about water. I mean, I'm a water nerd. Like, I can break down water. Like, if you want to get technical with water, I'm a water nerd. But just getting down to the general basics of it is the source. That's the most important thing. And the only way, people say, well, it's so hard because we're a city and, you know, it has to go through water plant treatments or what have you. But if we really look about what we put into the ground and how we build and what we use, it all goes back to the aquifer system. And that aquifer system is really working hard, right? It's working hard to be able to cleanse all of that and pump it out. So be conscious, please, and just be aware of what you're using in terms of chemicals and those kind of things. Try to look for a more natural alternative. I ask you this because there's that day zero that everyone's talking about. You've heard of day zero.
No.
Where water is going to be out. California is going through a very hard time with that right now. So oftentimes you'll see, like, on the roadways, you'll see waterways that have like the black balls. It looks like a big ball pit. Have you seen that?
Nope.
But it's to stop evaporation.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so they put it in there to stop evaporation because water's becoming so scarce, and then yet they have that big flood over there, right? So obviously there's something that's off balance, and we need to do our part. I'm not saying save the world. I'm not saying that at all, but at least be conscious and do your part.
Yeah.
Be considerate.
There's a natural alternative to everything.
Absolutely.
To everything.
Which I find is interesting, using that word alternative. I always say this, especially when it comes to medicine, right? They're like, oh, there's, what do they say? Alternative medicine is the term that they use. And I always think, that was medicine. Like, how did it become alternative?
Right, yeah.
Pharmaceuticals are what's up.
Right.
Yeah.
You know,
There
and don't get me wrong, there's a time and a place for those things. I'm good for right now. There's a time and a place for those things, for everything. And understanding your role in it, I think, is where it comes into play. And so if you look at things, just like Daniel's mission or our mission, I'm not saying go on this, you know, holy grail of missions. What I'm saying is just in the daily intent of your life, you know, being conservative and being resourceful is important.
Every dollar is a vote, you know. Every time you spend a dollar somewhere, you're voting for that thing to be or not to be. And just, you know, choosing alternatives that are healthy for you is also a reflection of, you know, how you treat the world, you know, the internal and the external.
Yeah. 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 Let's talk about it.
What's that?
Yeah, let's.
Oh, of course.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So something else that I was very interested in, and I'm excited to actually be able to offer this at our lounge, and it's something that's new and on the forefront for a lot of places, but with Living Vitality in general, it's a very clean process, and that is with your coffee. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, coffee is a very new journey for us. I started consuming it last year after I learned how to consume it properly, you know, and how much to consume of it. I didn't have a proper relationship with it in the past, and I had all these assumptions and preconceived notions of coffee. Once I clear those and have a better relationship with it, I started producing it here. And so now we're purchasing and sourcing coffee from a local roaster who purchases coffee from fair trade, single origin, organic farms in Central and South America and Africa as well too. So we started experimenting with nitro cold brew, and we're really happy with the direction. We have all the equipment for it, so we said, why not? It's just, easy to transition, and yeah, and it's good. And again, we're putting the intention into the water as well too. So eventually, right now we're doing our recipes with just coffee and water. We're cold brewing it. We're infusing it with nitro. We're learning. We're experimenting, and eventually we might add some functionality like with mushrooms and whatnot into it. But we're really excited to work with the Kava Bowl with you to provide that coffee to the community.
It's really good. Coffee for me, I've always felt like I had some kind of cream and milk and sugar, and because I can't just consume just black coffee. But I did not have to add anything to it, and it was amazing. And it really was good. And I feel like it's gonna go far.
Good.
I really do. Because in a lot of kava bars already, they serve coffee because not everybody drinks kava.
Yeah.
So if you do own a kava bar, look into this because it's really good, and there are some health benefits to coffee.
Yes.
That you kind of undo when you're adding all that sugar into it, and this you don't need it.
Yeah.
So really look into it because it's good stuff.
Yeah, thank you.
And with that, I'm not a coffee drinker, but my family, they love coffee, and it's a big part of Adam's culture on his Hispanic side. Well, that's his only side, sorry. But it's a big part of their culture, and I never liked the smell of coffee. It is just something that I never got used to. But with this, it's perfect because you don't smell it at all. I was thinking, okay, how am I going to deal with coffee? Because he kept saying, we need to bring coffee and we need to bring coffee. And I was like, I can't deal with coffee. For 4 years, my neighbors and next door to our business burnt coffee every single morning, and it seeped into my office, and it was just the worst thing ever. And I mean, I have also tried to make coffee for family and friends, and I burnt every single last bit of it. So it's not something that I'm a pro or an expert at, but something I notice is the clarity of it. I don't know if this is a real thing with coffee. Is it? Mm-hmm. Is it a real thing?
There's so many aspects to it. It's like when it comes down, it's the ground seed and water, but the clarity, the notes, the freshness, there's so much to it. Much to it.
And I think when you say when she says you don't smell it, that's one of the things that it's like people love about
the
coffee.
Aromatic.
But I think what she means is that sometimes that burnt smell or that real pungent smell that is not pleasant. This coffee it's really good. I don't even know how to describe it. This is really good. Like when I tasted it, I was amazed. I was looking at it like, wow.
Yeah, and that's something that Zion said. She's like, I like this. She's like, I normally don't drink black coffee. She's like, but I like this. You don't need to add anything to it. Yeah. And I think that's good because then you are able to consume the herb as it's intended. Again, intention. But what I also like is that you were talking about fair trade. And that's something that I love about what you do. I love that you are all about community, building community, and you source a lot of your herbs from local sources that are doing it in ethical practices. And I think that's important. I also saw on your website that you support a lot of different community initiatives. Can we talk about that for a little?
Sure. Yeah. So we've been involved with the community. Everything from opening our space up to host events, to helping small businesses get started, and also like keeping the economy local as well too. Mm-hmm. So, from where we source our ingredients, it's all like basically who you know and who you want to support and the intention behind it. We work with local companies here to source some of our things, such as our mushroom guy, Fungi John. He grows our lion's mane mushrooms.
I love that name, Fungi John.
Fungi John, yeah. And we work together to start his business. I did a lot of consulting for him, and we help each other out now, and it's lovely to see how much he's grown. We get our juiced turmeric from a local farm in Vero Beach that's organically grown. They juice it for us and they deliver it to us. Our ginger, we work with a juice bar nearby, New Moon Juice. They juice it for us. We trade them for kombucha, which is great. So there's we like involving the community in everything we do here. Absolutely.
And when we were first getting started, I told him, we need to get this tea. And he was like, oh, so-and-so told me about another one. And I said, that's fine. Yeah, I like their stuff, but I want to work with him. And so when we first met you and you came in and you were so supportive and you were offering us a lot of good advice, I knew right then and there, this is why, community is so important for us to build and to help and encourage. And what's interesting is that the perspective of we're not in competition. We're here to empower each other.
Yeah.
I think that's really impactful to know that you are not the only one doing this, but you encourage other people and you're not against them. You help them to grow in wherever they are.
Yeah.
And that's the same concept that we have. People often come in and they ask us how we feel about other people, not of the culture, serving kava and selling kava. And sometimes it's a flip of the coin, right? Just being honest. I always say, and I believe this, and this is why I speak this, is that I don't have a problem with it as long as it's being respected.
Yeah.
And if you can give back to the source in some way, shape, or form in respect, I think that that's the best way. And
to at least know where it's coming from.
And acknowledge that, and to show some aloha towards that, I think is really important, because it is reflective. When you're doing business with these farmers, understand that they have families and that they are also honoring their land. And so it's not just a commercial consumption of take. It has to give back. And that's what I love, this whole community aspect of what you do and who you are. And that's so important for us as a family, Ohana, to understand that. And then also for this community. So
the next generation of business is collaborative. The competition is the old paradigm, and that's quickly fallen away. And we see that all over the world, in tech, in business, in finance, and in small business. That which will survive has to be collaborative.
Yeah, so, for me, it's going back to the village.
Yeah.
Right? Trading, and everyone has a job, everyone has a function, and you work with each other to find that balance for just the life-sustaining things, the things that we need to do on an everyday basis to get by, but also to find joy in that. And those connections is important as well.
I like helping people. So, when I work with my retailers, I'm able to consult and give a lot of information and best practices, things that I've learned, in a experimental way, trial and error.
Yes.
To the point where I started consulting small businesses across the world, small kombucha companies and startups and other companies that are trying to scale. I've been able to get into the consultation world now, so I really love it, and I offer consultation services for many different kombucha companies and beverage companies or food companies and whatnot, because it's all kind of in the same realm. So I like it. It definitely brings me joy, like you said.
Yeah, most definitely, because having a tap was a foreign thing to us, right? But we knew that we wanted to offer that, and the difference that it made, especially when it came to like the botanical teas, to kratom and even kava. We wanted to be able to serve some of these items on tap. We had no idea what we were doing. That's not what we do. And we're grateful for you coming in and showing us and teaching us. And so I never thought I would be changing out taps. It's really interesting, and you make it so easy. You make it so easy, because I look at the labels, I'm like, okay, that's elementary. I could do this.
That was the beginning of fostering our relationship.
Right.
And now we're friends. We're community leaders in our own right, and we do business together, and it's like a lovely relationship. I really like that. That's from, helping each other out.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's how we grow. And so I always tell people we're not in competition. We're doing our thing. We're staying true to what we do. Other people have asked me, what do you think if I open a bar? And I said, do it. They're like, oh, what should I put in there? And I said, do what is most authentic to you. You don't have to make it Polynesian.
Yep, Manuia to that.
Manuia. You don't have to make it Polynesian. Do what represents you, because you're bringing your energy, your mana into that space, and people need a variety.
Mm-hmm.
Need a variety here, and that's what's so interesting about this community. Every one of the bars have a different feel to it, and so we used to enjoy going around to the different bars. Now we're busy all the time with the Kava Bowl, but just feeling the different energies and the different spaces and having variety really made everything colorful for us. Yeah.
I need to take a 2-minute break and go to the restroom.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
While he's in that, I stepped away. I mean, I really do, kind of going back to what we were talking about, like intent and mana and all that. I really do feel that when it comes through, it comes through in his product very much so. I mean, I've had kombucha, like I said earlier, from different sources, but there's something positive and that comes out of his, and when you get to know him on a personal level, let me take that back. Not even on a personal level. You just, the minute he walks in the room, you kind of feel that vibe. You kind of feel that positive energy that he has, and it's contagious. So and I just think that's a wonderful thing to have in your space, to have in your product, because it sure shines through, and all the flavors are just delicious. I mean, that's one aspect of it, just the good mana that's in there, but the flavors, they're very, very thought through. They weren't just things thrown together.
Yes.
And a bunch of sugar added to it. To just
perfectly engineered.
Yeah, perfectly engineered.
Perfectly engineered.
I think the answer for a lot of people is just add sugar to it to make it taste good. But there's just a lot of beauty in the natural ingredients that he puts in, that it's just as nature intended it, in a sense,
And speaking of that, just the mana, the energy that he brings into it is really encouraging, because as parents who are supporting their girls in this new journey of owning a kava bar and making it profitable, right? Because we just can't do it for all the feel goods. We did that for 2 years. We loved our space, very much like this place. We hosted events, family events. It was a place of cultural learning, a place of healing. It was a runaway for us to just get away from the world. But when you open it for business, sometimes, we were trying to figure out what works, what doesn't work, what works, what doesn't work. And one thing I love that basically you said, and maybe not in these words, was don't compromise, stick to your mission. And it re-grounded us to say, okay, we're not chasing them. Mm-hmm. We're not chasing them. We are who we are. We're opening it up and we're welcoming them. And I think it's taken on a new personality in itself. Yeah. And people, when they come through the doors, they feel that. And again, it's when you stay authentic and you stay true to yourself, then you're going to attract the right people in. And that's really important. But really quickly, I want to touch back. February 25th, that's next Saturday. We're going to have kombucha tasting. We'll put it on Eventbrite, so you'll have to go and do your RSVP there. And it's very specific and very focused on energia, calma, and immunity, TEA, as well as the nitro coffee. So we want to encourage you to come out and try these great drinks, and also to have an open mind and open heart. Without an introduction to this from a coworker, for someone who had a place in his mind frame would he have gotten into this? Probably later on down the line, because I always believe that it was always in his journey. As I hear his story, I'm like, it was always there.
Interesting to think about.
It was always there. She was just kind of the introduction to it. So we hope that this will be an introduction to you all as well, a gateway for you to understand what the product is and the intention behind it and the focus that it has. And then you will reap the benefits from that. So when you are thinking about how is your day or what am I going through, you will look to these instead of looking to other alternatives and to help you through it. Because for me, I see a lot of people who suffer from anxiety that I'm like, oh man, they could benefit from this. Or people who suffer from, depression or just low energy for whatever reason. And vibrationally, it makes a difference. It makes a difference. And when you are able to feel this in your body synergistically, it also brightens your spirit. And I think for me, that's one of the most important things is how you resonate with yourself. And that's why I always say, to thine own self be true, but if you're not on that positive level in terms of self-affirmations, don't worry, it's already spoken into the water, right? It's spoken into the water, it's already in there, and you'll feel his aloha, his intention into this. So
be thyself, know thyself.
Be thyself and know thyself.
When you put goodness in your body, it comes out. It comes out in who you are and your energy. So and this is great.
You're creating something unique.
Yeah.
With the kava bowl. You really are.
Oh, thank you.
I
thought you were talking about him. I was like, yes, you are. Yeah.
And you as well. Like I said, we always have a good vibe when you're around, and even on a personal level, not to get too personal, but I was going through some heavy times, and he took the time out of his day to talk to me and help me with a practice that I still use, and it's benefited me a lot. So if get to know him more, other than just living vitality, but him as a person. I think it's wonderful. Which I gotta get these. What sizes do you have these on?
32 ounces and 16 ounces.
Okay, so get these. Put them in your kava bar, and I keep saying I'm gonna get them, but yeah. But where can your products be found in the central Florida area? It's not just going to be at our kava lounge. There's other places, other kava lounges that
so we have tap systems all over the Central Florida, from East Coast to Central Florida to West Coast, Tampa, St. Pete. Nice. Here locally, we have all the Chamberlain stores. We have some of the juice bars like Raw. We have New Moon Market. We have several of the kava bars as well too around town. Again, it draws different clientele and everything, so there's plenty of abundance for everybody. And we're at some restaurants like 60 Vines and Taco China, and general stores like Yola General and other places like that. But everything can be found on our website, livingvitality.com.
Yeah, TEA.com. We took it to Fusion Fest. Yeah. And that was amazing. We sold out so quickly. There were people who've never had kombucha that came back and they're like, I want another one. Nice. So it was really an interesting look on how it started to spread across the festival. So great stuff. You can find it on his website. You can find it in Chamberlain. So Dr. Don Profeno, I know, do you know Don Profeno, Dr. Don?
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Don is at Chamberlain's and Dr. Phillips, or he was. So he and I have done a lot of hostings together about herbs, adaptogens, bioactives, nice. And just natural healing in general for the body and psychosis, and just on a lot of different levels. So Dr. Don, if you're out there, Dr. Don, I want to reach back out to you, and we'll get you on and we'll talk a little bit about these things and special plant medicines, because I know that's your forte. But I think I'll have one last shell with you folks.
And I love what you're doing with the podcast. I think it's lovely.
Thank you.
This is one of my first ones that I've been on, so I'm really happy.
Thank you. And this is, by no means are we professionals, but I think that's what's important, is to have candid conversations. It doesn't have to be so set up. And
This
it's organic.
This helps.
Yeah, I'll drink to that.
You know, when we talk about emotions and we talk about, you know, mental health and all that, you know, how they say that it's, you know, when they say you have that gut feeling, you know, it's believed that a lot of that comes from the gut. And what is kombucha good for, right? Many things.
Cleaning the gut.
Cleaning the gut.
Yeah.
Clean the gut, you clean the mind.
Yeah. So, I mean,
allowing for that connection to happen.
Yeah, that's what I said. It's a very conscious drink, you know. It allows you to, especially with these, they're very intentionally focused. It allows you to be functional and conscious, and also to enjoy. Because there are some that, you know, some different herbs out there that's just functional. But when you're still able to be yourself and to experience things, it's so important. You're not purging. I've seen that happen too, where herbs will just make you purge and you're not enjoying that feeling, right?
It's tough.
You may enjoy the after effects of it, what have you, but, you know, this is an enjoyable drink that...
there's so many purging drink, like tobacco, you can make a tea out of it, and that is very purging.
Yes.
And what's the other one? I forgot. Blank. The kava is definitely...
Yeah, I'm telling you, this kava's... Which is funny, right? Because this is how I grew up. I've seen all my aunties and uncles do this, and they had great conversations. We would just, you know, stand by and we would listen or what have you. But after a while, I would see some, you know, some wide-eyed looks, or they'll be like,
So the cousin to yerba mate grows here in Florida.
Really?
It's called Yalpan.
Yalpan.
It's Ilex vomitaria. Traditionally, this was used by the indigenous people here as a purging, you know, as a purgatory, a purging herb, if you make it in a strong enough content. But it's the only caffeinated plant that exists here that we know of in North America. It's really interesting.
That is interesting.
Too, speaking of that, kava also helps you to purge.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's spoken about a lot, but it does, which is also one of the reasons why I had to tone it back. Because for us, naturally, we make kava a lot stronger than you would find in kava bars. Most kava bars, it's toned back. And we like it stronger, but we had to find that balance of how we like to drink it versus what people are used to. And so I think I found a good balance. I think I found a good balance of it, but it can cause you to purge and clean out if you make it too strong, or if you're just not used to it. So yeah, this is also a purging type of...
Yeah, why don't you share the story about the guys who came to our house and you had a bucket nearby?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so without going into religion or anything.
Yeah, because he's going to hell.
We had missionaries come over, and I said, have you ever tried kava before? And we sat in our back patio, and they were like, no. So I was fair. I told them what it does, because they couldn't drink alcohol or anything. So they began drinking, and I had a little bucket on the side, and I put it next to the guys. And they're like, what's that for? And I go, it's okay. What is that bucket for? It's all right. Don't worry about it. And we kept drinking, and I was just watching them. And of course, I made it the way we drink it, which is very strong, very peppery and earthy. And I could just see, like, when they're talking, the pauses and the slow blinks, and you could just kind of tell when they're getting to that level. But it does open you up, right? It does allow you to talk, and it does kind of chip away those walls to where you can explain yourself good and everything. So yes, it did kind of work with the word, it being able to talk. But there came a point where all of a sudden he turns and he just purges into the bucket.
Right there.
And he looks at me and said, that's what the bucket was for. So it was.
For the exorcism.
Yeah, it's kind of for the exorcism.
For the exorcism.
For all that negativity to go.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it is a medicinal. So that's the amazing thing about kava too, is that it's used for so many things. So and we're still learning more and more about it. One thing to know too is that kava, there's over 200 species of it, I think it is, but not all of them are actually meant for human consumption.
Right.
Wow.
So, and that's the thing that a lot of people need to know about kava, is that only a certain type was, certain types were used, certain types were used for casual drinking, and certain types were used for ceremonial
and medicine.
And medicine, and those weren't meant to be consumed every day.
Correct.
Because they are strong, and because of using it, you can have side effects, which I hear in the kava community now that's out. People will say, I have to stop drinking kava because I start breaking out in a rash, or they start having effects to it. There's certain kavas that you shouldn't be drinking every day.
Right.
And I try to be fair, and I try to be open with people and explain to them the benefits of kava and the downsides of if you abuse it. Just like everything in moderation, everything is should be respected.
Right.
But when you take certain ceremonial kavas, or you take certain kavas that are very strong, that really aren't meant to be drank every day, and you mix it in with, like a waka from Fiji, or something like that. It's sometimes you can. I'm trying to be very careful when I say this, but you can cause damage. You can abuse it the wrong way. When people hear about liver problems with kava, this has been drank for over 1,000 years in the South Pacific. You never hear of those issues until it's used in the wrong way.
Right.
And when they start adding things to it, I'm not a big fan of extracts or anything like that, although it has its purpose, but I feel that can be abused. We do offer that. But
Not extracts. Yeah,
it's in the coffee shop. So, but we do offer it, but at the same time, it's I do let people know what it is, and I'm very
forthright.
yeah. So
Transparent.
I try to be as transparent as possible, but in its natural form, there's so many benefits. And when you hear about like people who had problems with alcohol and they've turned to kava, it really like opens my eyes and opens my heart, because for us, like I said earlier about conducting ourselves a certain way, this is a ceremonial drink. So the whole kava bar thing was new to us and almost felt a little taboo.
Yeah.
And we were still learning how to approach it in that setting. But when you see the benefits that people are having, like there's one guy that came in that he's a young guy. He said he was a full-blown alcoholic, and he turned to kava. He doesn't even have the desire for alcohol anymore. That's his story. That doesn't mean it's going to be that way for everybody, but for him on his journey, it benefited him in that way, and you can't ignore things like that. And, and I think you can find that in a lot of plant medicinals, and I really feel you can find that in kombucha as well. I know what I felt when I drank energia, and I just was like, and when I say euphoria, I have to be careful when I say that. It was a positive feeling. It was this focus that I felt, and like a
presence.
Yes, and that in itself was euphoria to me, because I had been going through stressful times, and I felt spatter-minded a lot. And when I drank that, I felt focused. That's my journey with it, and I look
That's beautiful.
Forward, I
Thank you for sharing that.
to exploring that more. But I really think that it's something that everybody should try, not just to promote a friend in his business, but I tell you, I think it could benefit benefit a lot of people.
Medicine over money.
It's medicine. It is medicine in itself. And you have to be careful saying that, but you know, I think if you explore it, you'll find good results.
See, you were mentioning the other day that people are coming to the Kava Bowl, and you're able to talk to them about herbs,
Yes.
you know, and all this knowledge that you have around the plants, and you're actually helping a lot of people, you know. And I think that's part of the uniqueness that you bring to the community.
Thank you.
Because it's intentional, and you know, you have all this knowledge, and you're sharing the knowledge through a wonderful vehicle. So
Mahalo. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. And what's interesting is that, no, I'm good for right now. I'm good. You know, what's interesting is you got to know your limits, right? And so, especially when you're sitting around the tanoa, you know, it's okay to say, oh, pass, you know, unless you're in a ceremony where you must consume. But I'm a person who knows my limits, and I'll say, okay, I'm good right there. I'm at a good space, and helping people to understand their limits, just in terms of their body and the herbs that are used, for me is important. And also financially, because there are some kids in there that I'm like, don't spend all your money in this place, you know, like, you know, because you care about their total well-being.
yeah, you need gas money to get home.
Yes, you need gas money to get home. You know, you have to be able to eat at the end of the day, because we have a lot of young kids that come in there, and oftentimes they can be impressionable, and with just the influence of everyone having a good time, you don't want them to lose themselves. And in that same aspect, in terms of herbs, I also have to be very cautious how I, you know, explain some of these herbs. So I always tell them about them, and then I say, go Google it, go do your own research,
Yeah.
see what works for you. You know, and that's why I always make this disclaimer, is that, you know, whatever we discuss in here, I want you to do your own research and find out what works best for you. That's so important, because you have to be aware of what you're putting into your body and what you're choosing, so you can make a conscious choice for yourself.
And the recipe is different for everyone.
And the recipe is different for everyone. It hits me very differently, you know, and it's been interesting to give this to people, the energia, and see their reaction, because I know a lot of them are regular consumers of different types of teas, and most of their reactions like, yeah, I think that's gonna be what I want to drink from here on out, you know. And so I love to see that that door open for them to be more, what is the word I'm looking for? Conscious? Yeah, more open, but more conscious about what they're consuming. And, you know, when you start sharing these types of drinks with them, it opens that door to talk about herbs. A lot of them were never interested in that when they first came in, and it was just kind of like, oh yeah, I've heard of that. But now they're coming back and they're having conversations like, oh, you know what, when I was looking up that, there was something else that I found, and have you heard of this? And so it's opening up a really good natural dialogue that I think is important for people to have, especially coming out of the pandemic. There was so much need for medicine during that time. And I'm not just talking about pharmaceuticals or nutraceuticals or anything like that, but also for emotional and mental medicine. We were cut off from each other, from that connection to each other. And so that is medicine. That's one of the highest forms of medicine, I believe, is to gather and to be able to share and also be able to partake is important. So it's given us that opportunity to make those connections and to begin just sharing what we love, what our passion is, and then seeing that grow is really rewarding.
Yeah, it's amazing that there's herbs even for emotional health.
Yes.
And there's belief that all disease is rooted in the mental emotional field first. And in Ayurveda, for example, you're able to detect that early on so that you you don't wait until it manifests into the physical. And it's all rooted there. And if you can treat it there, it's much easier to handle than later on.
Yes.
And to the point where you are basically blocking your life force or rejecting yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And then we know what kind of diseases lead to that. So it's really important to be in tune with that, and to kind of look outside of just a Western view of, attacking the symptoms,
right,
but rather taking care of yourself holistically, like how much time do you spend meditating or going into nature or doing something you really love or brings you joy, rather than that as a response to, I'm so stressed now,
Yeah, it's a proactive approach instead of the responsive approach. Speaking of that, I always ask this, but what are 3 things that you personally do to kind of keep you focused and keep you on your mission? So 3 things, 3 easy things that whoever's listening, for our millions of subscribers to our channel, what are 3 things, easy things that you do that you could recommend for other people to try?
Oh, I go to Wakaiva, I travel, and I ride my bike.
I love that.
So that kind of gets my needs met of exploration, and it doesn't work for everybody, but for me, I'm an explorer, I'm an adventurer. I love to go outside. So if I'm here too much, I will lose focus or become resentful. So I detach myself, I try to spend 20% of my time doing that, 15 to 20% of my time doing any of those activities where I'm able to express my joy in other parts of myself, like my creativity. For other people, it could be painting, it could be reading,
Sure.
It could be meditating, it could be dancing.
Mm-hmm.
My mom loves to dance. That's what she does, twice a week.
Nice.
Even at 77, twice a week, dancing. So the recipe is different for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But it's so easy to see how that's relative in different aspects, going to Wakaiva, where do you like to go? That's a question. Riding your bike, what do you like to do? So and then what was your other one?
Traveling.
And traveling, exploration, learning new things, right?
Yeah.
That's what I take from that. So people, place, and things is usually where you find a lot of change and personal growth, I always feel. So I think that's great. 3 pieces of easy to do advice, or something that's going to get you to your next level.
Yeah, thank you for asking that.
Yes, I always love to ask people who are so focused and so passionate about what they do, and what is it? Help all of us out there to understand what is it, what's that drive, and what keeps you sane to that.
And it's funny that my answers have nothing to do with what I do here.
Yeah, no, but that's great. But in a sense it does, because when you say explore, I was like, you're exploring new tastes. Like I can see that, when you say Wakaiva, I'm like, you're going back to nature. You're going back to nature. Yeah, to the water, to the herbs. I see everything in relative planes, and sometimes maybe that's just my lens is always like, oh yeah, I see that.
Yep.
I make those connections.
I agree.
Positivity is being put into.
Yeah, and then riding your bike is something that you enjoy, and so it's good. Sometimes it's good to
speed.
Yeah, the need for speed.
Yeah.
It's the need for speed, because this is kombucha is a process that takes a while. So that's not anything that's speedy. How long does it usually take to make kombucha?
So we have 160-gallon batches, which take almost 3 weeks to ferment. So once it's done fermenting, we flavor. We add the flavor concentrates. Everything is like naturally made here with ginger juices and berries and herbs. And then it takes another week before it's ready. So it's a good month process.
I feel like there's something spiritual in that as well.
Yeah,
like
the waiting,
just the patience, and I could imagine too that it would also help you to build confidence too, because you have to wait so long. You're not going to get an answer right away as to how that batch is going to come out.
Yeah.
But as you continue to do it, you build confidence, and to the reward that you must feel after tasting it, after you've waited that long for something that you're putting your heart and soul into. I believe it's there's spirit behind it.
The amount of time it's sitting there, getting infused with whatever energy we're putting into it. So
I feel like
that
you're growing with it as it grows.
That's a good perspective.
Into that final product.
Yeah, thank you for saying that.
So that's why you have that need for speed. You want to get out on the road and just
I
open
didn't
up.
know until I got the bike that I really enjoy that
That's
thrill.
funny. That's funny. Yeah.
Again, safely.
Yeah. Safely, please, everyone out there. Yeah. But for me, I love to disconnect and sometimes just do something completely opposite of what I do on a daily basis. And I'm grateful for the different community programs that I'm involved with that allows me to do that. But then there's also that part where I have to disconnect from that too, and have something else just to unwind into that. And more recently, like I look at several different things that I've seen online, and I'm like, I would really love to try that. But I'm a daredevil too. Like he used to always say, "You're a mother. You can't be jumping off planes, or you can't be doing those kind of things," because just that adrenaline rush is like for me is so important. And traveling but I also enjoy now. I don't know if it's just older age or. I used to do it when I was younger too, just a lot of time to reflect and just contemplate, no, but not too long, but meditate on where I'm at and where I want to be, and just, again, a lot of reflection in that sense. And that's something that Kava has actually helped me to do because my mind is always going, and Kava actually helps to kind of bring that down and slow that down where I can reflect, because this is how my mind works. Okay, let me just take some time to reflect. Oh, but did I do this? And hey, you know what? Did you guys see that show the other day? Like it was totally fine, but I wish I would have did this to it. It would have been better if they would have did this. So that's how my mind works. So Kava's actually helped me to kind of just sit and say, okay, here you are.
Yeah.
All by yourself, no other thoughts.
It's wonderful. I'm learning so much from you two, visiting the Kava Bowl and sitting in conversation and talking to Adam personally. We've opened up so much of our personal lives, and it's all part of the same spirit of Kava.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm learning so much. So thank you.
Agree.
Thank you for being in the community.
Mahalo for having us. And I think that's about it. So I just want to wrap up again. Join us next week, Saturday, February 25th from 6 to 8 p.m. We're having a kombucha tasting. So we're going to be featuring Energia, Gamma, and Immunity, as well as the Nitro Coffee. So if you have not had any of these drinks, or if you've had them before and want to really feel the benefits of and the focus to these particular drinks, please come out and join us. We'll put the information on Eventbrite. Bring a friend, because drinks are often enjoyed more when you're in the presence of someone you like or love. But definitely, we want to welcome you. That night, we're also going to be featuring art from Shan McClernand, and she's a local artist. She's come into Kava recently, and she feels the benefits from it. I love her energy and her mana that she has. And one thing in particular, why I thought, you know what, you would be perfect to bring your art this night, is how she sees energy and interprets that into her art.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So drinking kava and drinking kombucha and the other drinks that she's had at the lounge has inspired her in different ways, she told me. So I was like, that's perfect. That's, I think, a science in itself that we need to explore and we need to talk about. So Shan McClernand, it's Painted Pop Tarts is her IG, Painted Pop Tarts, and we'll be talking a little bit with her through the week. And she actually invited us to come and help her pick out some pieces to show.
Yes.
But what she described to me, what she felt, and what she had already, I said, that's perfect. Like, that's perfect. I think that works well with it. So we wanted to bring a little bit of sophistication to this drink. I think it's just as good as wine. And then some fun and some intention to it as well. So please join us. That's next week, February 25th from 6 to 8 p.m. Daniel will be there. We'll have these drinks for you to try. Shannon will have her beautiful art there on display. And come and enjoy just a good group and good community of people who are all on this journey together of learning. And